Hello, everybody. Welcome into the Apples and Genos Fantasy Hockey Podcast. My name is Nate Nibblink. I'm the creator of Apples and Genos, originator of the Zero G Draft Strategy. And in this podcast, I'm going to go over the most puzzling players league wide as submitted by the Apples and Genos Discord server. Let's get it. All right, welcome on in, everyone. We're doing this thing live as we do every Monday here on the Apples and Genos YouTube. We got Michael in here. Where can I get a Nate T? I'm not honestly sure what you're talking about, Michael, but let me know and maybe we can figure something out. Jared's here. Happy Monday, y'all. And Toronto Dave, hashtag 0G. Appreciate you showing up as well. Let's kick things off right away with the number one most requested player in the Apples and Genos Discord server, Tony DeAngelo. Yep, I guess this is a thing that we're gonna have to do. Tony DeAngelo back in the league. Who knows for how long this time, but he's here at the moment. So we will have to acquiesce to that reality, I guess. DeAngelo played just the one game so far there on Saturday night. Played 25 minutes and 7 seconds. Two shots, 6 shot attempts, three individual scoring chances, four, a couple of block shots. Yeah, I don't really know what to make of this situation. I'm inclined to think that, 25 minutes a night, if that's the new normal, then yeah, there's a lot of defensemen I'd be interested in at 25 minutes a night. I don't know that Tony DeAngelo is the kind of guy that you trust to skate 25 minutes a night, no matter how badly you might think you need some kind of offensive defenseman on the back end. But yeah, if that is the reality, then for sure DeAngelo will provide something because he is legitimately offensively talented defenseman. We've seen this in the past. I don't think it's all just completely vanished over the last few years. So there is something to that, I guess. I just don't trust it as far as I can throw it. For obvious reasons, Tony DeAngelo, fairly confirmed garbage can of a human being. It's just a situation where I don't trust that the coach isn't going to hate him, that his teammates aren't going to hate him, that things are just going to not go south quickly. And the Islanders, after experiencing Tony DeAngelo for all of 2 days, went out and grabbed Scott Perunovich from the St. Louis Blues, which is another player in the same kind of mold, like a offensive defenseman, power play specialist type defenseman. Um, I I don't know. It's very hard for me to have any confidence in the Tony DeAngelo experiment continuing for any length of time. But as long as he's getting 25 minutes a night, I'm interested, even if it's just for this week. Like, if it lasts for the rest of this week, then that might just be enough where you're like, hey, I got what I needed out of this situation, and whatever happens after that is fine because the Islanders do play 4 games this week. As if you've watched the waiver wire episode or listened to it, then you already know that a lot of these quote unquote heavy nights this week in the NHL are not all that heavy. So you can probably end up fitting DeAngelo in for all 4 Islanders games. If he maintains the deployment for all 4 games, then, maybe you get this week out of him and you're happy with it. That's a possibility as well. So I don't think I can be confident, but I do think that there are probably some people out there who are really struggling for a fourth defenseman right now, and Tony DeAngelo might be a good look for this week just to see what happens. All right, back to the comments. BB Stars, let's go. Nate the Goat, appreciate you. Fired up, is it here? Hashtag free Timo. Yeah, if you haven't heard, the New Jersey Devils, Nico Hischier out of the lineup for the game here today. And what did they do? Instead of replacing Nico with the obvious candidate, Timo Meier, who they are still paying $9 million a year. $9 million? I think it's $9 million. A lot of money every single year for the next long, long time. Yeah, no, they're going to go with Andre Palat instead because that makes sense. Yeah. Hashtag free Timo. We should make that a thing. I agree. Michael says Blake was anti goatee but pro Nate. Ah, yes, I understand now. The goatee versus the Nate. Totally understand now. I appreciate. Uh, Basically, the strategy to get not a goatee but a Nate is to just be chronically unable to grow any facial hair on your cheeks, and so in the interest of not looking like I'm 17 years old all the time, I grow some facial hair, and this is like the least offensive thing I can do with my facial hair. So that's the story of how we got to where we're at today. All right, some interesting stuff we're getting into early on in puzzling players here. Jordan asks, curious to see how the spreadsheet would work with two Elias Petterssons on the Canucks now. That's a great question. Let's see what happens when I put Elias Pettersson in. Elias Pettersson still comes up with the center. I don't know how much time. I do have some, minimum time on ice cutoffs in this, so maybe the other Pettersson isn't quite showing up yet. If I think it scrolls the way that the Google Sheet populates, it scrolls like from top to bottom, so it just do whichever one it comes across first, I think. But yeah, it's still showing the center as of now. Scaffold Dead in here as well. Good to see everyone in here having a good time. Hopefully your teams are doing something. We've got goals being scored early and often. Like to see that. I like to see my Garnet Hathaway hits stream providing a goal for me in the early going. I have Ristolainen in a spot for some bangers. Two spots actually, I think, for some bangers stuff. And he's got a couple of assists. We love to see this. What else do we got going on? I saw, who is it? DeBrincat just scored. DeBrincat scores. I've got DeBrincat in one spot. Good night. Good night already. Let's go. Armin's in here, my man, the fantasy OG. All right, let's get back to the list. Second on the list, Adam Fantilli, or Adam Fantilov, as he was referenced by line mate Kirill Marchenko. 3 goals, 5 points in his last 5, 22 minutes a night he's averaging. There was one huge night where it was like 26 minutes or something ridiculous. I don't know if that's going to continue, but definitely big time deployment for Adam Fantilli at the moment. 148th shots per 60, 209 individual scoring chances, 4 per 60, 278 on ice Corsi, 4 per 60, and 266 on ice scoring chances, 4 per 60. On the season, he has been kind of curiously unable to generate big time scoring chances. Earlier on in the season, I was kind of excusing it, new coach, new system. He was playing down the lineup a lot of the time, and I was kind of okay with excusing it that way. But I do want to see these numbers get better. Maybe we do and maybe we don't, but for him to be able to sustain any kind of, lately it's been point per game production. For him to sustain that kind of production, he's definitely going to have to improve the underlying stats moving forward. I think that he's capable of doing it. I think we saw a fair bit of that from him even in his rookie season, so I do think it's possible. But I think if you're just guessing at or trying to project what Adam Fantilli can do with the rest of the time that Sean Monahan's going to be out, which is an additional 6 to 8 weeks now, it sounds like, with the setback with his wrist injury. If you're trying to project what Adam Fantilli is going to do moving forward, I'm putting him somewhere in the 70-point pace as long as he's top line, top power play. So that's my 2 cents on that one. We got lots of comments rolling in. Let's get into it. CG says, Tony D worth the look. Yeah, touched on Tony D right off the top. But basically, I think it is worth a look if you really need a fourth D. I'm not like dropping anybody who's name brand value to get Tony D on my team, though. Armin's asks, thoughts on Dobson? What should Dobson owners do? Hopefully back for fantasy playoffs. Yeah, I mean, there's probably not much you can do. If you do have Dobson and you're struggling to make the playoffs, you should probably try to trade Dobson for something, because he's not going to do anything for you to get you to the playoffs, probably. So you should probably try to get something for Noah Dobson and get yourself into the show, and then worry about it from that point onwards. On the flip side, if you're, trending for a buy and you're feeling pretty good about things, you could try to send some offers for Dobson right now and see if you can get him stashed on your IR Plus or whatever you have in your league and try to stash him for playoffs. And maybe that works out in a big way for you. Definitely could. I don't think, I don't think Tony DeAngelo is going to hold back Noah Dobson when Noah Dobson is ready to come back. So yeah, there's that. Of course, if you are acquiring Dobson, there is, the outside chance that the Islanders just kind of fade out of the playoff race. And by the time that Dobson's ready to come back, they're like, man, it's not worth it on this season. Like, let's just shut you down and get you healthy, not risk any further injury. That's a possibility you have to consider. I don't know how likely that really is, but it's at least in the back of my mind if going out to acquire Noah Dobson for anything of substance. PB Stars, McTavish over Coronado for Ducks playoff schedule. Love the minutes McTavish is getting right now, but wondering if it's sustainable at L3, line 3. Yeah, I mean it's Cronin still, so I don't trust the minutes of anybody there a whole lot. There again, the Vetrano Terry Strome line is getting more minutes, I would say fairly consistently. And then the other three lines, like if you look at the last game, if you're going by Frozen Tools here, in the last game, the other three lines, the not Vetrano Terry Strome lines, the other three lines went for 9:47, 9:08, and 9 minutes together. So literally within 47 seconds of each other, the other three lines. So it really is like a four line thing that Cronin is trying to run because, yeah, why wouldn't you want to get Jensen Harkins and Brett Leeson some more time on ice over a guy like Mason McTavish who's absolutely lights out right now? Just more Greg Cronin hellscape for you. But either way, Mason McTavish, I think he is on the list, but we can talk about it right now. So you see the numbers, 5 goals in his last 5, including an assist, 6 points, 17 and a half minutes, 10th in shots per 60, 66th individual scoring chances, 4 per 60. He's legitimately playing really well right now. I do agree that it's like, it's not something that you can bank on, but I would probably take him over Coronado right now on the possibility that McTavish really does grow this role. He's playing on the Vetrano. He's like the fourth member adding to that Strome Vetrano Terry line on the power play. They add McTavish to that power play, which is the kind of de facto 1A or number one power play. So he's at least getting that deployment as well. So I would take McTavish over Coronado at the moment. Whether or not that comes true and it's still hitting for you come fantasy playoff time is another question. But at least, you could take it at the moment. Carter asks, who should the drop be to activate Stolarz when he returns? Ben, Tippett, or Buchnevich? Looking to grab an injured guy earlier since I can't add straight to IR. It's a good question. Jamie Benn has really cooled off in a big way. Owen Tippett has been having his struggles getting in towards Doghouse a little bit here and there. Buchnevich has had his struggles, although in the last game I think I saw his minutes came back up in a pretty big way. So I think I'm pretty okay with Buchnevich. We'll see how this. Yeah, the last 2 games Buchnevich has skated 1930 and 2027. He didn't have any shots in those 20 minutes in the last game, which is concerning. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe Buchnevich is playing hurt. Maybe that's what's going on. But I still tend to think that Buchnevich should be better than this moving forward. I think I would probably drop Ben of that group at the moment. But yeah, if you have less weight on bangers or shots, then maybe you could also look at Tippett. Michael says, I thought Elias was spelled differently for the second one. The second Elias Pettersson. I don't think so. I believe it's the exact same spelling. CG, Spurgeon or OEL in a points league. I think you got to take Spurgeon there for the exposure on power play 1 at the moment with Cap, Boldy, those guys on the top power play. Armin, love to hear your predictions on Columbus Blue Jackets line 1 power play 1 when everyone is back. What's your guess for next year's top C for them? Yeah, it's a good question. I think a lot of it does depend on how Fantilli produces from here on out. He's got a long runway now, like a 2-month runway. And he's probably most likely going to have that unless he performs really badly. He's most likely going to hold that role for this entire 2-month stretch. And then they're going to have an evaluation to do. So I think it really still depends. I would be shocked if, they have it like in their minds, like exactly what's going to happen from here on out. I think they'd be kind of crazy to do that. They want to get into the playoffs, right? They're gunning for it. They're just going to go with what's working at whatever given time. That being said, I think Monahan probably does deserve a spot on line one, power play one when he comes back. That would be my baseline expectation. If Fantilli really goes off over the next couple months, then maybe he pushes himself into that conversation a little bit more. There could still be room for Fantilli on power play one, even if he does go back to the second line. Boone Jenner coming back, the forward core in Columbus could be getting better. And so there could still be sustained fantasy relevance for Fantilli, even if Monahan does come back and take top line duties away from him. But I think you would need some power play one time for Fantilli for that to really come true. I'm not sure about how likely that is, but I don't think Kent Johnson is like a guy that you have to have on that power play unit. And so I think that Fantilli could find his way on there with some continued performance. Armin says, I'm in top spot thanks to you. I'm glad that it's working for you. I don't want to take all the credit. Like, you got to put in the legwork. There's no two ways about it with fantasy hockey. Like, you can listen to every podcast, you can think through everything perfectly, but you also got to put in the legwork yourself. So give yourself a pat on the back there too. Armin says, low-key sweating that he might be out for rest of season. Is this going back to one of the previous ones? Dobson, I think. Yeah, that could be as well. They could just decide to shut him down if the rehab doesn't go exactly as planned, etc. CG looking to playoffs. Best option: Ben, Norris, Slav. When are your playoffs? 22 through 24 or 23 to 25? Let me know that, and I can come back to that question. Armin, I trade Monahan can be kept for a 14th next year for PD. Was going to settle for Kadri, but I think I did well. Yeah, especially if you're going for it this year. Vancouver has pretty good playoff schedules in general. Again, depends a little bit on when your particular league has your fantasy playoff schedules, but I think Vancouver, they play 10 games, but they have 6 off nights in 22 through 24, and they have 12 games with 8 off nights in 23 through 25. So either way, you're sitting pretty there. Dirty Deeds, I know you guys covered Matheson yesterday, but was wondering what you do with him in my situation. I'm first in a 10-team Cats league with Werenski, Wallman, Matheson, Hamilton, Uyghur, Doughty, IR. Yeah, if that's your situation, then Matheson is probably the drop when Doughty comes back. Yeah, because you don't want to be rostering 6 defensemen moving forward. I think that's the play there, especially in 10-team. Yeah, I don't think that you need to sweat that too badly. CG says 22 through 24. Okay, so it was Ben, Norris, and Slavkovsky. Montreal plays 11 times with 3 off nights. Ottawa plays 11 times with 2 off nights, and then Dallas plays 11 times with 4 off nights. So they all play 11 times. Dallas has the most off nights, and Ottawa has the least. I think, man, that is tough, to be honest with you. I don't have a lot of confidence. I don't have a lot of confidence in any of them, to be completely honest. Slavkovsky has turned things around just a little bit as of late, and has me a little bit hoping, at least. I don't know if I would say I'm confident by any stretch, but hoping that he can, kind of turn this thing around a little bit in the back half like he did last year and have some relevance moving forward. Again, I don't know how likely that truly is, but there's something that you can hope for there at least. I think, man, if the vibes in Ottawa were better at the moment, I'd probably be going Norris, just because I think the power play one situation is probably pretty sewn up for him. I think I think the upside play is Slavkovsky. I think the baseline play is JB Ben, and I think Norris is somewhere in between. If you're looking for pure upside, then I would go Slavkovsky, but you have to also, if you do go that route, you have to also be prepared to just drop him and have to go with somebody else later. So yeah, that's where I'm at with that. It's not a cut and dried situation by any stretch. Jordan says, "Hey Nate, thoughts on Terry and Schmaltz rest of season?" Yeah, I don't think my thoughts on either of these players has really changed much throughout the season. Both have 5 points in their last 5. Terry's getting 19 and a half minutes a night. Schmaltz just over 18. Both of them have not great but not horrific underlying numbers over the last little bit. But yeah, points are going in for them. Terry on a 27 goal, 69 point pace, pretty nice. Nick Schmaltz, 17 goal, 65 point pace. I think both of these guys could see some upside from the numbers where they're at. Like they could push into the 70-point range with a few breaks going their way. Huh. Yeah, I think, I mean, you weren't necessarily asking between the two, like which one you would pick over the other. I think Troy Terry is more integral to his team than Nick Schmaltz is to his. Schmaltz is a great facilitator for what Clayton Keller does, but Clayton Keller is pretty clearly the straw that stirs the drink in Utah. Whereas Troy Terry, he pretty much is the offensive talent on Anaheim. And so, yeah, if you're choosing between the two, I'd go with Terry. But I think both have similar outlooks. 65 to 70 points rest of the season feels like a pretty good bet. I think Terry may score a few more goals, and so maybe that's a bit of a tiebreak for you as well, but that's where I'm at there. Harmon asks, any good buy low D-men to target? Ideally, power play one with a good playoff schedule. Could try to think through here real quick. Heiskanen could be one. Depends on your settings a lot because Heiskanen isn't great for peripherals, but maybe his current manager is really fed up with them. They might be able to do something there. Just in sheer games played, Mackenzie Weegar could be a look. I don't know how much I trust that situation, but it could be a look there. Seth Jones gives you off nights, so yeah, that's a good look on that regard. Plays 10 games, solid schedule there. What else we got? I'm trying to find the 11-game teams really here. I don't really think that Roman Yossi's a buy low anymore, but if you could buy him, that's a good look. They play 11 games as well. Yeah, those are the ones that are kind of top of mind for me here. CG says, have Kemper and Blackwood in 12-team points. Stolar's coming back. Need to drop one. What should I do? Wow, that's a interesting spot. I think in a points league where unless you have really terrible point system where you have to make 10 saves to outweigh one goal against. I think I would honestly keep Kemper and Blackwood. I think they'll get more volume than Stolarz for the rest of the season. That's just where I'm at the moment. So I think I would drop Stolarz, to be honest with you. Format is weekly locked in. Yeah, I think I would keep Kemper and Blackwood and drop Stolarz. Dirty Deeds, Boone Jenner worth the IR stash. Where do you think he slots in when he gets back? Line, power play, penalty kill? Yeah, I think he'll probably play a decent amount. They may ease him back in a little bit, coming back from big injury like that. But I think probably the expectation is line 2, power play 2, some penalty kill time. I think he'll probably play in the 18-minute range a lot of the time. That would be my kind of baseline expectation, and then anything above that is kind of gravy. Blake said, 20 goal, 20 assist kind of player with a good amount of shots, good amount of hits, face-off wins if you need that in your league. I think that's probably where I'm at too. CG asking if I'd go Giroux over Norris. I think they're pretty comparable. I don't have a strong take between the two, to be honest. Armin noting that, Yegor Chenikov coming back too. That will obviously add some more offensive firepower to the Blue Jackets as well. CG says, best content by far. Appreciate that. And also asks, was offered Aho for Necas, except... that's an interesting question. Sebastian Aho... I think Aho is he's a cleaner projection for sure. Aho, you feel like you can just take it to the bank, what you're going to get out of him. Just looking at the off nights here, Carolina in weeks 22 through 24 plays 9 games with 5 off nights. Colorado plays 10 games with 3 off nights. I think I'd stick with Necas, to be honest. I think he is going to get that crazy deployment in Colorado that we were talking about. That came true pretty much immediately. Necas played 25:08 in the first game against Boston and then had the most time on ice at 19 minutes 34 seconds in the win against the Rangers on Sunday. I think Colorado is pretty desperate to make sure that they don't look like absolute idiots for trading away Mikko Rantanen. And so they're going to give Necas the Mikko Rantanen treatment and hope that he's 80% of the player that Rantanen was. And if he's 80% of the player that Rantanen was, that's an 80 to 90 point player. And I think that's possible. So I think I would actually keep Necas there. All right. If you made it this far and you're enjoying the content, if you could like the video, if you could subscribe, comment in here, whatever you can do, it does help us out. So if you're enjoying this, if you're along for the ride on this live stream, would appreciate that. Let's get back into it. We're only 3 names in. We got to get through 20 or so here. So let's dig in on Zach Hyman. 2 goals, 3 points in his last 5, 21 minutes a night, 55th in shots per 60, 8th in individual scoring chances, 4 per 60, 76 Corsi, 4 per 60, 48 in scoring chances, 4 per 60. Good underlying numbers for Hyman. 32 goal, 54-point pace on the season. That's coming due to a 42% IPP on the season, which seems like just unbelievably low for Hyman. Maybe there's some things that they've done differently this year than previous years, but I just cannot believe that Zach Hyman is going to rock a 42% IPP for the rest of the season. That doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. And so I do think that we should see him get back more into like a 55 at least. And I mean, that if you look at just the raw numbers there, that's like a 25 to 30% increase in raw scoring for him moving forward. I think that's coming. So I'm pretty bullish on Hyman moving forward. That being said, Edmonton does not have a great playoff schedule. If your playoff weeks are 22 through 24, they play 9 times with only 1 off night. So that may keep you from trying to acquire him as a buy low, at least I would say. Seth Jones, in his last 4 games here, he's got 2 goals and 4 assists for 6 points, 24 and a half minutes, average time on ice, 16th shots per 60, 12th individual scoring chances, 4 per 60, 90th Corsi, 4 per 60, and 81st in on-ice scoring chances, 4 per 60. Now pacing, he's missed some time, so it's only 32 games, but he's got 21 points in 32 games. That's a 13-goal, 54.82 game pace for him. Comes with a 47% IPP, 7.9% shooting percentage, and 12.3% on ice shooting percentage. I think he's running a little hot at the moment. I'd put him more in the 45 to 50 point range as a pace rest of season. But this is kind of the Seth Jones experience, the Chicago experience. He's going to be up and he's going to be down, and he's going to end up, around somewhere around a 50-point pace for the rest of the season. You're going to have 5-game stretches where he scores 0 points. You're going to have 5-game stretches where he scores 6 points. That's all going to happen again at different points throughout the rest of the season. So you have to make up your mind right now if that's something you're okay with or you're interested in. For myself, I'd be pretty happy to have Seth Jones as my 3rd or 4th defenseman on my fantasy roster. Carter Verhaeghe, next one. 1 goal, 3 points in his last 5, 15 and a half minutes average time on ice, which is not what his fantasy managers wanted to see. 30th in shots per 60, 94th individual scoring chances, 4 per 60, 19th Corsi, 4 per 60, 65th on ice scoring chances, 4 per 60. It's an 18-goal, 56-point pace for Carter Verhaeghe on the season. Still ranks 8th in the league in individual scoring chances, 4 per 60 on the season. Has had some tremendous bad luck and obviously been demoted down to the 3rd line. However, in the last game, when things were not going their way, they did reunite Verhaeghe with Barkov and Reinhart on the top line towards the end of the game. And he is back on the top power play. He was off that for a little bit. I think this is a buy low opportunity on Verhaeghe. I've been preaching this for a while. It hasn't quite come true yet because, they've been dinking around with him on the 3rd line. I think that, things have gone cold enough for them lately that they're ready to try Verhaeghe back up the lineup again. The underlying numbers suggest that he can still be very good. He's just had some really horrific luck this year, finishing luck. And so, I'm pretty into Verhaeghe, and I would definitely be interested. I think he's going to be a really interesting draft day target next year. Maybe turns it around the last half of the season, goes on absolute bender, and he's not much of a value. But right now, I would wager that he's going to be one of the biggest values in draft day come next season. So I'm still in on Verhaeghe. I do think he will turn it around this season. I think he's got at least 70-point upside. He could push himself towards point per game upside if he gets that line 1 power play 1 deployment for the rest of the season. All right, next up, after Carter Verhaeghe, we talked about McTavish, so we won't rehash that one, but Andrei Svechnikov here, 2 assists in his last 5 games. Svechnikov has not had the season that his managers were looking for from him. And once again, we have the 17.5-minute treatment for Andrei Svechnikov. He's playing with guys like Kotkaniemi, Eric Robertson, Taylor Hall in the last game. Yeah, bad look for Svechnikov across the board. 121st shots per 60, 261st in individual scoring chances for per 60. That's not going to get it done. 24 goal, 56 point pace on the season. He's been right around this 17 and a half minutes average time on ice all season long. Definitely deserves better than what he's gotten, but how much better is a real question. Should see some boost from Rantanen in terms of the power play should be better with Rantanen, but is Svechnikov ever going to really see the benefit of playing with Rantanen at 5v5? I don't know. That's a big question for me moving forward is does Svechnikov play less because Rantanen's line is playing more than ever before, or does Svechnikov at some point get on that line with Rantanen and Aho, and that line really takes off and it becomes like a true top line, and then maybe it's actually a really big boon for Andrei Svechnikov. So I still think there's a lot of different outcomes possible here. I'm interested in what's going to happen here. I think, I mean, if you can buy Svechnikov at like a 56 as a 56 point player, then you should absolutely do that because his upside is much higher than that. And really, this is kind of his downside, what you're getting right now. I don't think anybody's going to sell off Svechnikov as a 56 point player. You're going to have to do some projection if you want to get in on Svechnikov. So, yeah, it's really just about how willing are you to do that. All right. Next up, Pierre-Luc Dubois. This was Blake's submission. He just wants me to talk about how Dubois has 3 goals and 5 points in his last 5, which I will gladly do here. Just under 17 minutes average time on ice, 83rd in shots per 60 and 96th in individual scoring chances for per 60. Good numbers over the last little bit from Pierre-Luc Dubois. On the season, he is 91st in individual scoring chances for per 60. That's a pretty good number. On a 17-goal, 65-point pace on the season now, averaging just over 17 minutes a night on the season. The on-ice shooting percentage here is pretty crazily high, almost 15%. I do think that comes down. So I do think that Dubois rather settles probably just below the 60-point mark as a point pace rest of season. But that doesn't mean that he can't be valuable. Depends on your format, obviously. It depends on your setup. But I do think that PLD has more value, definitely more value than I foresaw coming at the beginning of the season. Washington in general has just been so much better than I think a lot of people saw coming this year. And so, yeah, Dubois, I feel like, has been one of the primary beneficiaries of that increased level of play from the rest of the team as well. Let's go back to the comments here. CG says, Aho boosted with Mikko. No. Yeah, for sure. It's the best player he's ever played with. But I don't know, like, is it a 5-point increase with Mikko? I think we can get really attached to narratives in our head and not analyze what the most likely scenario is. And so, like, just because Aho and Rantanen are like real life friends does not mean that on the ice they're just going to be dynamite from the first minute. They might be. It could be a really good thing. And maybe you want to bet on that, but it could also just take Rantanen a while. Like, you've probably heard a lot of the interviews where Rantanen was like totally shocked. He's put it out there that he was ready to take less than market value to stay in Colorado. Yeah, it could just be like a bit too much of a shock for Rantanen. I think we're lying to ourselves if, we see it every year. Some players, they go to a new place, they thrive instantly. Whatever the mental makeup is there, whatever the physical connection to the new coach's systems are that make that work, whatever the case may be, some players go to a new place and it's an instant connection. Other players go to a new place and they just can't get untracked for 20 plus games. So I don't think you can just automatically say that Aho gets a massive boost with Mikko. I think you should project some sort of boost, but I'm not comfortable in saying that it's immediately like now Aho is like a 90 plus point player. I don't think that's how it works. How is Lacombe looking now? We can throw Jackson Lacombe in this sheet here. I gotta fix that, or that's gonna bug me. Capitalization is a problem. Just 1 assist in his last 5, still skating 23.5 minutes a night. 15th in shots per 60 amongst all defensemen in this span, but 128th in individual scoring chances for per 60. So more just bombing it from the point. He's a chucker, certified chucker. 15th in Corsi 4 per 60, 33rd in on ice scoring chances 4 per 60. On the season now, 42 game sample, he is 20th amongst all defensemen in shots per 60. So it's a good number for Jackson Lacombe. He's on a 16 goal, 41 point pace. I think the goals are a little hot, but I think the point pace is probably not that far off what we could expect from Lacombe in his current setup. Yeah, I think Lacombe can be a 40 to 45 point player rest of season. And I will hang my hat on that one. Michael says Hyman on the loaded line tonight. You love to see it. Let's see if he can put some stuff up. Here's Blake. Probably you put this in right before I started talking about PLD. Yes, I do have PLD in Cacuffle Tier 1. I think I've mentioned this before, but he was dropped in Cacuffle Tier 1. I was like, this is probably the best player that's going to get dropped in this league all year long. So I put in a little fab bid for him. I think it was like $12 or something like that, and I got him. And I've held him ever since, and he's been pretty solid. Armin says, Norris is a banger. Yeah, he does that. Someone just dropped Lindgren, but I don't think I'll drop Bennington for him. Cats League, and I got Skinner and Swayman. Yeah, I mean, Washington just signed Logan Thompson to a huge deal as well. So they got that one done. I don't know that Lindgren is necessarily in their plans for next year. I think they'd like to keep Lindgren as well. They've mentioned that, but I think Lindgren's going to look at that Thompson deal and be like, why can't I get something like that? Especially the way he's been playing lately. And I can't imagine that Washington is going to pay 2 goaltenders that huge of a deal. So, yeah, I think that just the contract and the commitment that Washington has now made to Logan Thompson, you can expect that in any case where there's, a lean one way or the other, they're going to lean toward Thompson rather than Lindgren moving forward. So I think I would hold Bennington there as well. CG's laughing at Blake, as we all do. Blake says, you bet your sweet bippy, buddy. Nate, keep crushing out here in these streets with the heart emoji. Love you too, buddy. All right, back to the list. Shane Gostisbehere next up here. No points in his last 5. I might actually go back further than that. I haven't checked on Gostisbehere in a while. I have no shares, no cares when it comes to Gostisbehere this year, so I haven't really been keeping up. It is, just the 5 games. He had an assist before that. Only 16 minutes average time on ice for Gostisbehere, 120 shots per 60, but 14th Corsi 4 per 60 and 123 in on ice scoring chances 4 per 60. It's kind of always going to look like that for Gostisbehere because, he doesn't play a lot of minutes, but he does play on the top power play, so the metrics are going to look pretty good because he's a pretty significant percentage of his time is coming with the man advantage. On the season, he's on pace for 12 goals, 55 points. I think that's probably a good expectation moving forward, but it is concerning that he's gotten less minutes in a few of the recent games here. He had a 13-minute, 32-second game a while back, 14-minute, 18-second game. The last 2 games have been okay, 19:03 and 18 minutes. But yeah, this is the Shane Gostisbehere experience. If you didn't want to have this experience, you probably just shouldn't have been rostering Shane Gostisbehere. I still think the baseline expectation for Gostisbehere moving forward is somewhere around 55 points. Jared McCann next up, 1 goal, 4 assists, 5 points in his last 5. I think the goal is an empty netter because McCann has been pretty terrible as of late by the underlying numbers, in the 300s in all the numbers that we like to look at here. Just over 17 minutes average time on ice, 23 goals, 62 point pace for McCann. I think this is a player that's kind of getting buried in Seattle at the moment. The Schwartz, Kakko, Beniers line went off for a little bit. I think a lot of that was just some kind of crazy efficiency. I don't think that really lasts, but McCann is playing with Tolvanen and Shane Wright. It's not the favorite line right now, as much as there are any favorites in Seattle, but that's kind of the situation there at the moment. At this point, I think McCann is just not playing very well. Maybe there's, something underlined there, who knows, but 23 goals, 62 point pace. This could be more or less where he lives. I think he's got better in him, but he probably needs to not be playing with Tolvanen and Shane Wright for him to really unlock that kind of ceiling. That's what I'm going to say about that. Nice that he's got the points in the last little bit, but the underlying numbers have been bad for a hot minute now. I don't really see it getting better unless they shake up these lines a little bit and give him somebody to play with. All right, back to the comments. Gomer Jackson, hey brother, thanks for all your help. No problem. Another question: with Doughty returning, would you drop Ghost or Nurse in a standard points league? Hits, blocks, plus minus, all included. That's a good question. I might take Nurse. I mean, I think probably. Let me look at Darnell Nurse here for a minute. Darnell Nurse, 3 assists his last 22 minutes, 7 goal, 37-point pace on the season. Yeah, I think basically what both Nurse and Gostisbehere have done to this point is kind of my baseline expectation for each of them moving forward. And so I think if whoever has the most average fantasy points to this point, I would kind of keep that one because I think Nurse and Gostisbehere have kind of performed exactly as expected to this point for me. So, yeah, I would keep whichever one has scored more average points per game to this point. Other guy on the fringe of the roster is Buchnevich. Yeah, I think you're trying to drop a defenseman there, though. I'd rather not be hanging on to those. Gover Jackson says, "I'm talking to Nate, obviously, not you, Creamer. No calendar, no love." Yes, the famed calendar that Blake had to go do that photo shoot for. Um, yeah, I don't know when we're getting that calendar, but I'm waiting for mine as well. So you and me both. Gober Jackson also asked Dorofiev. Apologize if you've already covered him. Just got here. No, we haven't done that yet. I could throw it in. Pavel Dorofiev, 2 goals, 3 points his last 17.5 minutes average time on ice, 16th shots per 60, 64th individual scoring chances, 4 per 60, 33rd Corsi, 4 per 60, and 20th in on a scoring chances, 4 per 60. Was playing on that Hurdle Olofsson line again. Was playing on the top power play again. I really like this spot for Pavel Dorofiev. He's on a 34-goal, 51-point pace on the season. I think that feels pretty decent. He might run into a few more assists, but yeah, he could get up towards a 55, maybe push towards a 60-point pace rest of season. That wouldn't surprise me too much, especially he's got an extra minute over his season-long average time on ice here. You see the underlying metrics on the season are just terrific. 6th in shots per 60, 19th individual scoring chances, 4 per 60. Yeah, I really like Pavel Dorofiev. I think he's in a good spot at the moment, and I think the Vegas Golden Knights are finally starting to realize that, yeah, this guy needs to be on our top power play all the time now. And he's really finding some chemistry with Hurdle at the moment in particular, which I really like. So I like Dorofiev a lot. Darush, who do you think is better rest of season in Bangers, Cats, Bouchard, or Werenski? Who? It's a good question. M. Bouchard has obviously not had the best of seasons or the season that we expected, but terrific talent offensively, playing obviously on a terrific team there. 14 goals, 62-point pace. I think Bouchard probably has more in him moving forward, but the way that Werenski is going, I don't think I can go away from Werenski. I think I would take Werenski over Bouchard rest of the season at this point. Steve says, I know you and Blake discussed Alex Pietrangelo on the Mega Show. Would you rather him or Morgan Riley right now in a hits, block, shots category league? That's an interesting question. I don't love either player at the moment. Neither have been particularly inspiring in terms of their production as of late. Pietrangelo gets more minutes, and especially as of late, really feels like they're still trying to figure out what to do with Morgan Riley in the new system under Craig Berube. That being said, I think that Riley deserves significantly better than what he's gotten so far, just in terms of the luck metrics and stuff. Um, hmm. It is pretty tough. It is pretty tough. I might still go Pietrangelo, to be honest, just because I think hits as well. Pietrangelo doesn't really hit too much, does he? Now I really got to dig in. This is they're basically in the same tier, I can say. I think that they're very similar in that regard. On the season, it's 33 hits, 89 blocks, 86 shots for Pietrangelo. What do we got for Riley? For Riley, it is. Wait, is that right? 18 hits for Riley this year? Is that right? That seems incredibly low. I thought Riley had more hits than that. Now I'm really deep down the rabbit hole. Somebody fact check me at the same time as I'm trying to fact check myself. Does Riley really only have 18 hits on the season? I don't have him anywhere where I don't have him anywhere at all, actually. But 18 hits seems kind of crazy. He's definitely done more than that in the past. Okay, now I'm searching Riley up. Riley on the season. Steve says yes, 18. Wow, that's a fall off. No, he had 98 hits last year, and he's got 18 this season. I wonder what's going on there. Anyway, don't need to dig into that too much. Yeah, I mean, almost on the basis of that alone, maybe you go Petrangelo. The rest of it feels pretty similar. The shots, the blocks go Petrangelo's way a little bit. The point upside doesn't feel as dissimilar now that Riley is kind of really an afterthought on the top power play. Yeah, Gomer Jackson says that's pathetic for Riley numbers. Yeah, I don't disagree there. Yeah, I think I might go Petrangelo after looking through that a little bit more. Those hit numbers for Riley are crazy low. So yeah. Jordan says, "Hey Nate, would love your take on this. The day before Rantanen trade, I traded away Point and Natchez for Kaprizov. Which side would you prefer with Natchez on Colorado now? Expectations for cap rest of season." Um, yeah, I think I would. With Cap, I'm kind of just going back to where I was on Cap preseason. I think he ran really hot there for a while, but I was unreasonably high on Kaprizov before the season started. 52 goal, 115 point projection for him for me preseason. And actually, I think he's gotten even more average ice time throughout the season so far. Let me look at this. Yeah, 22, almost 22 and a half. We're at him for 21-15 in my projections. So a little bit more there as well. Yeah, I think in the 115 point range as a point pace rest of season for Kaprizov. You gave up two very legit players in Point and Natchez. It probably depends a little bit on your league. Like if it's a 10-team league where the waiver wire is very plentiful and you can find guys that might score at a 70-point pace rest of season, like with not too much difficulty, then in that case, then I really do prioritize having the best player out of a deal like that. If it's a 16 team league where the best player on the waiver wire is only going to score at a 30-point pace rest of season, then yeah, maybe the point Natchez side is better than Kaprizov plus a 30-point score. That's possible. Yeah, I think it probably does actually depend on kind of the size of your league and what you need there, but I think it's kind of reasonable, I guess I would say. Definitely, Natchez being on Colorado raises his ceiling for me for fantasy, but I still think it's within the realm of reasonability. Gomer Jackson, have you covered Barkov yet? No, we have not covered Alexander Barkov. Let's throw Barkov in the list here. 3 points, all assists his last 20 minutes a night, 171st shots per 60, 126 individual scoring chances, 4 per 60, 11th in on-ice Corsi 4 per 60, and 37th in on-ice scoring chances, 4 per 60, 22 goal, 82-point pace on the season for Barkov. He's got to start shooting. This is the problem for me. But the 11.1% on-ice shooting percentage should be much higher. Florida has kind of been snake bitten this year. It kind of feels like they've gone through weird stretches like this in the last few years. But I do think it gets better for Florida moving forward. So, yeah. I think Barkov should be in the 85 to 90 point range as a point pace rest of season. Playing decently. It's just pucks are not going in for them kind of across the board right now. But yeah, my baseline expectation there is that it does get better. So for whatever that's worth. All right, we got to get back to the list. Jake Sanderson here. Across his last 4 games, just 2 points, both assists, 22 and a half average time on ice, 26 shots per 60, 14th individual scoring chances, 4 per 60 in the 100s, and the Corsi 4 and on-ice scoring chances for numbers. 3-goal, 45-point pace for Sanderson on the season. It's been disappointing. He had a really nice hot start, like the first week or so of the fantasy season. Everybody's like, oh, it's the coming out party for Jake Sanderson. And then it really fell off a cliff after that. I do think it can be better, but the 8.7% on-ice shooting percentage is not helping his fantasy output. Yeah, I think I'd put Sanderson in the 50-point range. I'd not have a big projection on Sanderson at the beginning of the season. I think because he skates really well, he looks really good out there, that people had a bigger projection on him than I did in a lot of places, just by looks almost. But yeah, I was not high on Sanderson and I actually had him projected somewhat close to this range. So yeah, maybe he can get to a 50-point range, but I don't expect much more than that for him moving forward. Back to the list, Darren Radish, 2 goals, 5 points in his last 20.5 minutes average time on ice, 5th in shots per 60 amongst all defensemen, 144th in individual scoring chances, 4 per 60. Somehow, some way, the Darren Radish experiment on Power Play 1 is continuing to happen. As long as it's continuing to happen, he's got to be rostered in all leagues, basically. He's on a 6 goal, 43-point pace. Really, it's all about that Power Play 1. As long as he's on it, he should be rostered. As soon as he comes off it, he should be dropped. It really is that simple for me with Darren Radish, to be honest with you. So that's what I can say about that. Connor Bedard, 1 goal, 4 points in his last 21.5 minutes average time on ice, 213th in shots per 60, 203 in individual scoring chances, 4 per 60, also in the 200s in the on-ice numbers. 22 goal, 72-point pace for Bedard. It's been a tough go for him this year. It's been much tougher for him to generate his own offense this year as compared to last year. And yeah, maybe, a little bit of that is the league just getting the book on the player and understanding his tendencies a little bit more, where he likes to set up shop, and he's got to now, do that kind of counter punch and find a way to exceed. Definitely his teammates in Chicago are not helping him out whatsoever. This is a guy who on a lot of other teams would be on a 90-point pace, but he unfortunately plays for Chicago, so he's on a 72-point pace, and that is kind of the reality of it. I don't know that I can project him significantly higher moving forward from here. But yeah, it is going to be unfortunately a little bit dependent on his teammates rest of season to see what kind of heights he can reach. But definitely I think he can score more goals. He's got to shoot more though. He's got to find a way to get more shots on goal. And it just seems like, whatever he was able to do last year to get those shots on goal, he hasn't been as able to do that this year. And that's really hampered his overall production. Dylan Strome, 0 points his last 5. Dylan Strome is a player that Blake and I covered in the flagship show, so go back and check that out if you want our takes there. Long and the short of it is, Strome should be good rest of season, but he was definitely incredibly unsustainably hot early on in the season, so now we're just kind of leveling out. I think he can be in the 65, 70-point range rest of season, and that's where I'd put him if I had to handcuff it today. Yuri Slafkovsky is on the list, 2 goals, 4 points in his last 17 minutes a night, 150th shots per 60, is 50th in on-ice Corsi, 4 per 60, and 41st in on-ice scoring chances, 4 per 60. Yeah, like I said, Slafkovsky is, he's still in the top power play, top line with Caulfield and Suzuki, and he did this last year where he really turned things around towards the home stretch of the season last year. Could he do something similar this year? I'm not betting against it. He's on a 13-goal, 50-point pace on the season, but the numbers are starting to creep up. Honestly, your guess is as good as mine whether they will continue to creep up or if they'll fade again. But the fact that he had a really good stretch, and it was like a legitimately good stretch, like under the hood, the numbers were looking good as well. The fact that he had that last year is giving me hope, at least, that there's something here with Slafkovsky moving forward. Pavel Zacha, 1 goal, 4 assists, 5 points in his last 20.5 minutes average time on ice, just riding shotgun with David Pastrnak there. 332nd in shots per 60 in this stretch. Crazy stuff. 189th individual scoring chances, 4 per 60, 166. Corsi, 4 per 60, 144. On ice scoring chances, 4 per 60. 18 goal, 47-point pace for Zacha. This is a player who's going to be hot when Pasternak's hot, and he's going to be cold when Pasternak's cold. And honestly, that's about all there is to it. You're just looking for exposure to Pastrnak. 54% IPP sounds about right. I think the underlying numbers kind of track. So it's really just about when Pasternak's going, Pavel Zacha is going to be going as well. Nothing more than a streamer, Zacha for me. Another Pavel Buchnevich, 2 assists in his last 18 minutes average time on ice, 314th shots per 60, 202 individual scoring chances, 4 per 60, 123 on ice Corsi, 4 per 60, 94th on ice scoring chances, 4 per 60. Yeah, I mean, it's not good. They're getting beat up right now by Vancouver 3-0 midway through the second. It's a 19 goal, 53 point pace for Buchnevich, 55% IPP. That's the part that kind of has me um, thinking that there's got to be better days ahead for Buchnevich, just because that's not the player that Buchnevich is all the time. Um, yeah, it does feel like there should be another gear here somewhere. But it has declined the last few years. It's kind of been a weird up and down cycle to the career for Buchnevich. Like from 2020 through 2023, those 3 seasons, 79% IPP, 71% IPP, 70% IPP. Then last year it was a 59% IPP. This year it's a 55% IPP. I don't know what's going on, but it's tracking downward, and I don't like it. Um, yeah, he's always been kind of an efficient player, but when the efficiency goes away, then you're left with a season like the season he's having. And so that's concerning. I do think he probably shoots for a better percentage rest of season as well. He's shot for pretty high percentages in a lot of the most recent years. So I think Buchnevich will do better moving forward. Is that enough for it to be worth it? That's a real question here. And worth noting, St. Louis, one of the worst schedules, 10 games, but just one off night in weeks 22 through 24, 10 games, just two off nights, 23 through 25. Matthew Barzal, 2 goals, 4 assists, 6 points in his last 20.5 minutes average time on ice there. 151st shots per 60, 184 individual scoring chances, 4 per 60, 41st Corsi, 4 per 60, 77th on ice scoring chances, 4 per 60. Now he's up to an 18 goal, 58 point pace on the season. I had called Barzal one of the biggest buy lows, if not the biggest buy low on the season a little while back, and he's obviously gone off since then. It was pretty easy to predict, honestly, looking at the underlying numbers and how unlucky he'd been. Still think he's been unlucky to be on this point pace at this point in the season. Only 19 points in 27 games. He's going to get way better than this. I do think he can be a point per game player rest of the season with this kind of deployment. Even if he doesn't hit that, he should be solidly in a 75-ish point range. So, yeah, I'm liking Barzal for the rest of the season for sure. And the Islanders have a decent playoff schedule. They're better if you're weeks 23 through 25. Last one here on the list, Jiri Kulich. Then I'll get back to the comments, and then I will get out of here. Jiri Kulich, 4 games played since returning from injury, 2 goals, 2 assists in those 4 games for 4 points, 17.5 minutes average time on ice, 4th shots per 60, 1st individual scoring chances, 4 per 60. Jiri Kulich, 32nd in Corsi, 4 per 60, 10th in on ice scoring chances, 4 per 60. On the season, it's only a 35 game sample. He's only averaged, just over 14 and a quarter minutes average time on ice, but he's 30th in shots per 60, 24th individual scoring chances, 4 per 60 on the season. Jiri Kulich under the hood looks really good. And in the last little bit, he's been getting some runs on the top line with Tage Thompson. That's obviously exciting. It was Tage Thompson, JJ Peterka, and Jiri Kulich on the top line there. Jack Quinn is not performing on the top power play. How long does it take before they give Kulich a run there? If Kulich goes power play 1, line 1, rest of season, who knows how high the ceiling could go. The Sabres have that amazing schedule. Come playoff time, 11 games, 4 off nights, 13 games in weeks 23 through 25. This is a player that you might want to take a look at. You might want to stash now, especially in your deeper leagues, and get him on your lineup, into your lineup before somebody realizes what they're doing with him there in Buffalo. Just wanted to shout out some Jiri Kulich there. All right, back to the comments, and then I got to get out of here. Justin, not sure if he's been mentioned, but has Marchessault played well enough up to your rest of season projections? Let's cover up Barkov and replace with Jonathan Marchessault here. 1 goal, 6 assists, 7 points. His last 20 minutes. 5th shots per 60, 12th individual scoring chances, 4 per 60. Underlying numbers look terrific the last little bit. 26 goals, 67 point pace for Marchessault. Yeah, obviously, really good stretch as of late for Jonathan Marchessault there. Let's see what we got. On the season, I had him for 31 goal, 64 point pace. So, yeah, the point pace is very close to what I had him for. I had him for 17.25 average time on ice, and he's getting 18.25-ish there. The shots are better than I expected. Yeah, they have been featuring him more. The average time on ice really coming up in the last little bit. He's been playing on the top line with Stamkos and Forsberg and on the top power play. Pretty consistent as of late. Yeah, I think Marchessault is looking pretty good rest of season. Obviously hot right now and hot with the underlying numbers, not just the actual point scoring. So pretty interested in Marchessault. Like what I'm seeing there right now. Jordan says my team is 12 teams. Picked up Terry and Schmeltz off FA, deciding which one to keep. Also have Nichushkin on IR. Yeah, if you're keeping one between there, I would keep Terry personally. Officer James Leahy asks Points League, who's a better hold rest of the season, Demko or Anderson? Poof. Probably Demko. Anderson, I just don't think is ever going to get the volume to be worth it in a points league. So, final answer, I'll go Demko there. Protas is asked as a question, I believe, rest of season. Let's throw Alexei Protas in here. 2 goals, 5 points his last 5. 17 plus minutes a night, 243rd, shots per 60, 133rd in individual scoring. Chances for per 60. On ice numbers not so hot. 33 goals, 69 point pace on the season. Nice. 76% IPP, 23.5% shooting percentage, 16.3% on ice shooting percentage. Yeah, it's been a good run for Protas. He definitely has gone out a bit over his skis. If I had to guess his point pace rest of season, I'd put him at like a 25 goal, 50 to 55 point pace. Final answer. DeRush, is Raquel's production sustainable? He has been cooking for a while now. It's not sustainable by the common metrics that we use, but they also just have nobody else to send out there in Pittsburgh, so he's going to get minutes at the very least. 4 points his last 4, 18 and 3/4. 18 minutes, 45 seconds after 7 ice there. That's a much better way to say it. Underlying numbers are not so great as of late. Also on a 69 point pace. Pretty nice stuff from a few players here tonight. The 18.4% shooting percentage will decline. Is playing with Crosby, so the floor is only so low when you're playing with a guy like Crosby, and it does feel like Raquel has finally figured out how to play with a guy like Sidney Crosby, so that's a positive in his favor. Yeah, I don't know that I would project him this high rest of season. Maybe like 25 to 30 goals, 60 point pace rest of season would be a little bit more accurate by my eyeballing it here, but yeah, that's about where you're at. Gomer Jackson, if you could pick a team for the Stanley Cup this year, what's your call? It's a good question. I think there's a few teams that have legitimate shots. I think it could be a year where Carolina finally figures some things out and gets over the hump, especially with Rantanen in the fold now. That could be a route to go from the West. I think that the Dallas Stars are just kind of lying in wait, to be honest with you. I think they could really figure things out. They're going to need goaltending. The Stars need to get better on defense. Good chunk of their team last year, like the Chris Tanev pickup for them last year was huge going into the playoffs, and so they need to find another pickup similar to that going into this year. If they can find that and add to that defense core a little bit, I think Dallas Stars will be a tough out. Dallas Stars were my cup pick at the beginning of the season. I'm not ready to go away from it just yet. Michael says, hi, 10-team head-to-head Cats. Goals, assists, power play points, shots on goal, hits. Please rank rest of season. Tuch, Drouin, Slavkovsky, Voronkov. This one I'm probably going to have to go Voronkov. I'd love to go Tuch, but it really does seem like he's going to be line 2, power play 2 for the rest of the season. I think Slavkovsky has some potential to be the best player here, but Voronkov is in the best spot at the moment. I'll go that route. Michael says, Elias Pettersson. Rest of season outlook. He's got just 1 goal in his last 5. I don't think he's on any of these goals here tonight so far. Is that true? Yeah. Oh, he got an assist tonight. So he's adding an assist. 18.5 minutes average time on ice, 180 shots per 60, 246 individual scoring chances for per 60 in the 100s in the on ice numbers. 22 goal, 59 point pace. Yeah. Pettersson has played pretty terribly this year. There's kind of no two ways about it. He should do better in terms of point pace rest of season, but he's got to perform better for it to be much more than a 70 point pace rest of season. So maybe he does, maybe he doesn't, but it's got to be better from Pettersson. All right, last few comments here. Justin, Logan Thompson is currently second goalie in my points league. Would you move off him for playoffs for a higher volume guy, i.e., Kemper or maybe Skinner? Yeah, now's the time to be looking at something like that. I do think it's possible that Thompson does get volume through the playoffs. Like they just end up just kind of tilting that way a little bit more of a 1A, 1B rather than a true 50-50 split with Lindgren. That's possible. So, you can keep that in the back of your head. But Washington plays 10 games, 4 off nights, weeks 22 through 24, 12 games, 5 off nights, 23 through 25. It's not the worst schedule, I guess. But yeah, I think, yeah, if you can, especially if you can get a little plus on top, right? If you can get a little plus on top to get to a Kemper, I wouldn't hate that. I don't know that I'd go to Skinner. Edmonton plays only 9 games, so you're kind of giving up a game there and kind of, you know, removing some of the advantage of getting a volume goaltender by removing a game played from that stretch. But yeah, I don't mind the kind of logic. Just trying to get a few more games played in a points league. Hidden in plain sight, as Casper says, thanks, Nate. Marco Casper, let's throw him in here. Casper, I believe that's how you do it. Yep. 2 goals in his last 5 games. I don't think Casper has been on any of the goals that the Red Wings have scored tonight. Is that true? Oh, he did get an assist. He got an assist on the Raymond goal in the first. So add an assist to that. He has been playing on the top line with Raymond and Larkin. Really good spot to be, obviously. I don't think he's doing any of the play driving there himself, but I think Casper's a fine streamer as long as he's in that spot, but he is nothing more than that to me. Comer Jackson says, thanks for the stream. Much appreciated. All right. I think we've gotten through everything. So that's going to be all that I got for this episode. Hopefully it brought you some value and it helped you get a little bit better at fantasy hockey today. All the advanced stats you heard today came from Natural Stat Trick, which is a terrific free resource. Many thanks to the band. They're there for supplying music for the podcast. Be sure to check out their Spotify as well. That's it, folks. Much love.